Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Marfuatun Adawiyah. I'm from group 5. Now we will discuss about inflection. The first is inflection. What is the definition of inflection? Inflection refers to word formation that doesn't change category and doesn't create new lexeme, but rather change the form of lexeme so that they fit into different grammatical contexts.
Now I want to explain about types of inflection. So we know that inflection is the change of form, a noun, adjective, verb, and etc. Undergoes to discretes its case, gender, mood, numbers, voice, and etc. Inflection occurs when the word is used to express various meaning. Okay, the first is number. A category of noun marks singular or plural. For example, the singular cats, cat, ox, and child, and the plural be cats, oxen, and children. The second is person. A category of noun are made of verbs in agreement. For example, the first person be my, the second be your, the third be his or her, and the plural, the first person be our, the second be your, and the third be their. You can see. Next, the gender. In some language like French and Germanic, there are masculine and feminine nouns, and also additional nouns in Germanic. The classification of inflectional morphemes in gender itself is arbitrariness. There are no suffixes or other clear marks on the nouns to tell us their genders, so that it later deals with some agreement with a noun. And next, the case. Another grammatical category that might affect noun or whole noun phrase. In language that employ inflectional category of case, nouns are distinguished based on the function in the sentence, whether a subject, possessor, direct object, indirect object, object of preposition, and etc. You can see the example. Okay, next, the tense. A category of verb marking time, present, past, future. For example, irregular verbs like go, being, when. So I go to be I went. Okay. Next is aspect. Relate to verb marking point of speaking. For example, imperfective and imperfective. Imperfective is I got full. So imperfective, I get full or I'm getting full. Next is voice. A category of inflection that allow different noun phrases to be focused in sentence. For example, the cat chased the mouse. The mouse was chased by the cat. And the last is mood and modality. A category of verbs marking speech, arts, type, and possibility. For example, wake up. Okay. Thank you. And next.
The next material is inflection in English. The first is what we have. What we have, it is often said that the irregular plurals and past tense in English form close classes. That is, they constitute a fixed list from which particular forms can be lost, but to which no new forms can be added. The regular plurals and past tense endings are considered default ending. In other words, when a new noun is added to English, its plural is formed with s, and when a new verb is added, its past tense is formed with ed. So if we borrow a noun from another language or coin a completely new noun, their plurals will be formed with the regular suffix, and similarly for new verbs. And the second is why English has so little inflection. In fact, if you study the history of English, you will find that at one time English had quite a bit more inflection than it now has.
Hello, my name is Nafi Rohani Atun. I want to try to explain about paradigm. A paradigm consists of all the different inflectional forms of a particular lexeme or class of lexeme. Each distinct form of a lexeme exhibits a specific combination of the inflectional properties that are expressed in that language. Inflectional classes. Within a language, not all nouns or verbs may inflect in exactly the same way. All members of a particular category will typically make the same inflectional distinction. For example, exhibiting case, number, or tense, but the actual forms for particular cases, numbers, or tenses might differ from one group of nouns or verbs to another. These different inflectional subpatterns are called inflectional classes. Suppletion and syncretism. Suppletion and syncretism are terms that refer to relationship between inflected forms in a paradigm. Suppletion occurs when one or more of the inflected forms of a lexeme is built on a base that bears no relationship to the base of other members of the paradigm. Syncretism is another relationship we can find between the members of a paradigm, specifically one in which two or more cells in our inflectional grid or table are filled with precisely the same form.
Okay, I will explain about inflectional and productivity. There are derivational effects in English as we saw that are created on merely so, others that are relatively productive, and some of them are fully productive. Inflectional is generally considered to be more productive than derivational. And then for productivity, is the degree to which native speakers to use particular grammatical process, especially in word formation. It's compared grammatical process that are the frequent used to less frequently used ones that tend toward lexicalization. Generals that test of productivity concerns identifying which grammatical form would be used in the counting of the new word. Thus will tend to only be converted to other form using productivity process. And then for example, has a progressive form with the suffix ing, and just about every verb came from a past tense. I say just about every verb because there are occasional verbs that native speaker of English, at least of American English, are highly recurrent to use in the past tense. For example, I can use the verb forgo in the present tense. I forgo dessert most nights. But for the past tense, forwent sound too odd for most people to use each year in spoken or written form. Forwent dessert last night, and there's not alternative, generally not forget. Okay, I think that's all my explanation.
Inherent versus contextual inflection. Contextual inflection is inflection that is determined by the syntactic contraction in which a word finds itself, whereas inherent inflection is inflection that does not depend on the syntactic context in which a word finds itself. Number is inherent in nouns and pronouns, as is gender, but the case of a noun always depends on its syntactic context. On the other hand, tense and aspect are inherent in verbs, but person and number depend on the nouns or the pronouns with which a verb occurs in a sentence. So, number can be contextual for one category verbs, but inherent for another nouns.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I would like to explain about inflections versus derivation revisit. We have now looked in some detail about add inflection and add derivation or lexeme formation more generally. Remember that we distinguish two sorts of morphology in the following ways. The first, inflections never change category, adds grammatical meaning, is important to syntax, and is usually fully productive. While derivations sometimes change category, often adds lexical meaning, produce new lexemes, and can range from unproductive to fully productive. One more thing we can add to these differences is that in words that have both inflectional and derivational affixes, the derivational affixes almost always occur inside the inflectional ones. We've seen that the differences between inflection and derivation are usually quite clear in terms of function, meaning, and position in word structures. In most cases, when we look at the morphology of language, it's not too hard to distinguish inflections from derivations. There are cases, however, where the distinction doesn't seem so clear-cut. One puzzling case is that of nouns in the West Atlantic language Fulan. Lieber 1987. Okay, the next point is how to morphology analysis. Morphology is the study of word formation, how words are built up from smaller pieces. When we do morphology analysis, then we are asking questions like, what pieces does this word have? What does each of them mean? How are they combined? In general, when you are asked to do any sort of linguistic analysis, you'll be given a set of data, words, or sentences from some language that generally isn't, but occasionally is English, and asked to find patterns in it. How to do morphological analysis when you don't know anything about the language? The first one is find a pair of words whose English translations differ only in single way that's relevant to the task at hand. The second, find the corresponding differences in the non-English word. Often some letters will be added or the words will be changed in some systematic other way. And the last, check your theory. Find another pair of pairings whose English translations also differ only in this relevant way, and make sure this pair of pairings words change in the same way as the last. I think that's all from me. Thank you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.